Everybody, Lieutenant Joe here for Hope is Not a Tactic, the school safety and security show. So recently, I did a program for a business association. And during that program, I was talking to them about workplace violence. Now, it's interesting, in New York State just upgraded their laws to reflect that schools are now considered workplaces under the workplace violence laws. Uh, I think I've talked about this before, but it was interesting as I brought up the program Plan and Prepare, all of the things we need to think about. So, a couple of things I want to talk about today as I look at my list here: IDs, student IDs, and staff IDs. We're going to talk about, but first, let's talk about my sponsors. Blue 360 Media, my publisher, excellent. RiotTint.com, an amazing company. They make the window glazing, safety film for your schools. It is the best bang for your buck you can ever get. Riot Tint's excellent. Take a look at them. And medicalessentialdiagnostics.com. Now, they are in New Jersey right now, but they have 6 locations, and you get free screening, health screenings for you and 2 people in your family that are over 18. Medicalessentialdiagnostics.com, and it covers all state, local, county workers, school teachers, right? You can go there and get a free physical checkup, make sure you're healthy and okay. All right, so we talk about lanyards and IDs. So here's some of the things I found over the course of doing threat assessments in schools and staff training when I visit all these different schools all across the United States. Is that there was a couple of schools that have what's called senior privilege. Now, this concept comes to us, I guess, from, back in the day, as they say, when we allowed the seniors in our high schools to leave the building to go into town to get lunch. Right? It was a privilege that they got to do. I guess it kind of addressed the fact that they were older. They had done their 4 years. It's respectful to them. They're responsible young people. They could leave the building and come back and have lunch. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to that idea. If you have a safe community, you send in the kids out of the school on their own during the school day. Okay, I guess that's fair enough. What I didn't like was that what they did is they gave these kids swipe cards. The seniors all had swipe cards that worked the doors of the school. So the school was smart, the district was smart. Once the day started and everybody was in, they closed the doors were locked, and nobody could get in unless you had a swipe card or if you were allowed into the building. The problem was they were giving these seniors these swipe cards so that when they came back from lunch, they could just swipe themselves in and come in the building. It sounds harmless. But the problem that they found on multiple occasions was that a senior might say, yeah, I'm not going to go to lunch today, but my buddy who's a sophomore or a junior, he wants to sneak out and go get lunch or go to his car and have a cigarette or do something. Here, take my card. And they go out the door, they do their thing, they swipe themselves back in. Not a good idea. All right. So one of the recommendations I made was that while that is an awesome thing to do, senior privilege, you're showing respect for these kids, you're showing trust in them. Having them have a swipe card that they could give to other people, that they could come and go as they please, was probably not a good idea. That what they should do is anybody who wants to go for lunch checks out and leaves the building, and they come back and they get buzzed in, right? They don't have their own swipe card, because I just thought that that was just not smart because of the way it was being used, not because the kids you couldn't be. Some of them gave it the cards to their friends or their brother. Here, I'm not going to school today. Take my card so you can get out and get back in, whatever you need to do. And that was absolutely happening. So that's a safety security gap, right? So we want to take a look. Do we do that in our schools? Do we allow that? Now, when I talk about IDs, I hear 2 things. I hear, yes, our students have IDs, but they don't always remember them or wear them. And I also hear that our staff members have IDs and they're supposed to wear them, but they don't. Okay, well, why don't they? Well, some don't like it. They don't like to wear it on their neck. They don't want to put it on their belt. They forget it. It's a nuisance. They don't want to deal with it. I said, okay, is there value to people wearing an ID? And the answer for safety and security is yes, there is. a value to wearing an ID. This way, if I'm a teacher and I'm walking through the hallway and I see somebody walking up a hallway and they don't have an ID on them, then I know they are not a staff member. Are they a visitor? Well, they should have some kind of an ID to indicate that they're a visitor, or are they somebody that got in somehow and are going to hurt you, right? See, this is what we always forget. We kind of forget that all of this is not just to be an annoying pain in the neck, but it's to protect us from the people who would harm us, and they will. People will come into our schools and they will harm us, right? So I like the idea of identification and that people wear it. I found a school district that did a brilliant thing. They mandated that everyone had to wear their ID. Students, everybody have to wear their ID. And if they see you without your ID, there's some kind of a penalty, a timeout in the office. You have to write a report. You have to do something. And they ensured that the staff did this as well. They made sure that they wore their ID so everybody could tell who was who. What they did for the students, though, and I love this idea, and I would suggest it to you, is that each grade level of student had a different colored lanyard. So freshmen might be yellow, sophomores red, juniors green, and seniors blue. Now you knew immediately by looking at the lanyard what age student you're talking to. And where would that be important? Well, what if you're not supposed to be outside or you're not supposed to be in the hallways at a certain time? You see, oh, there's a yellow lanyard. That's a freshman. Freshmen don't belong over here. There's a problem. What's going on? Why is this kid over here? So I do like colored lanyards. Matter of fact, in our military, they use these kind of colors. Usually it's on the background, right? So the background of your picture will have a certain color that indicates where you can go in the facility, right? So it's not an unknown type of a thing. So lanyards, I think, are great. I was at a private school in California, and they didn't have any ID, and they were an open campus where people could walk in from the neighborhood. There was people all over the place. They couldn't tell who was a student and who wasn't, and they decided to go to the lanyards with the color system. Now they've reported to me and said, wow, we found lots of kids on the campus who were just hanging out, were coming through to see what was going on. They knew a friend. Now we know who's supposed to be here and who's not. So lanyards and ID are extremely important for safety and security. So consider it. Think about it. And if you do senior privilege when you let the kids out, do not give them a swipe card, right? That swipe card is a key to get into your locked, secured facility. You have to protect that. All right. So that's our thought for today. Lanyards, ID, swipe cards. Pay attention to what we're doing with them. It keeps us secure. This is Lieutenant Joe for Hope is not a tactic.